say to stop all this madness, I cannot believe that the parents of the kids in this meeting are fifth grade. I can't believe it. I remember when they were in school. Like I just yeah. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop.
I know, these are like our babies, and now we're talking to them about middle school. Okay, so we're going to just to give you an idea, we'll go through and start with academics, which I think is usually everybody's primary question. And then we can kind of walk through some extracurricular opportunities. And then I'd like to explain how the composite score works for middle schoolers going into high school, just to kind of give you an idea of how our composite scores compare to other schools. And then we can ask any questions and just kind of talk about next steps for you all. So the biggest thing for academics is that when we get to middle school, there's a standard track and an honors track for classes. But when I say a track, that means for each subject, there's like a path that they're put on. And so Dr. Foster and I have worked really hard over the years to give middle school students the options of participating in some honors classes, but not all of them, right? So I just want to make sure that when I say a track, I don't mean that like all students have to be in honors. Students have to be in all honors or all standard. There are options for both, but I just want to make sure that you can kind of see the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade progression. So in math for 6th grade, students who are in the standard math class do the Eureka grade 6 curriculum. And then students who are in 6th grade honors math do that entire 6th grade curriculum and the first half of 7th grade. And I'm actually going to go to the next slide just to kind of show you this progression of math. So in the honors 6th grade math class, they do all of 6th grade and the first half of 7th grade. And then in 7th grade, they finish that 7th grade curriculum and do all of the 8th grade curriculum. And then that sets them up in 8th grade to take Algebra 1, which they get high school credit for. So that just kind of gives you an idea for math. I would say math is probably the one where the curriculum is the most accelerated. And I would argue is probably like the trickiest one as far as the pacing of that. So that just kind of gives you an idea of their 6th, 7th, and 8th pacing throughout. And then in 8th grade, if they take Algebra 1, they do actually take the Algebra 1 MCAP so that they can get high school credit for that course. Any questions about math, the math progression? Okay. So in ELA, the standard ELA class uses Wit and Wisdom 6th grade curriculum, and then the 6th grade honors class uses the grade 7 curriculum. So that those honors classes in middle school are always using the grade level above. And then for science, the biggest difference for both science and social studies for the honors group is that they have like an independent project that they work on over an extended amount of time. So with science, it's the Morgan State Science Fair that they work on, and in social studies, it's National History Day. And both of those are projects that they work on probably for like 2 or 3 months and get pretty deep into the entire research process, primary, secondary sources, and really kind of foster a lot of independence as far as students completing those projects. Dr. Foster, anything you want to add about the curriculum for 6th and 7th, or 6th and standard and honors before I move on?
Yeah, only thing I would think to add is, as now a parent, right? So my son is in 8th grade, on his way to high school. I can say that the curricular options and opportunities that our students have had in elementary school really supports the transition to middle school and the depth of work that they need to complete. So by the time we are, they are completing these classes, they feel like they're really in solid shape. And also, what I personally appreciate and professionally too is that our middle school team of educators, they're all veteran educators. They work with him at minimum at least at this point, I'm thinking like 7, 8 years at minimum. So they bring a lot of just content knowledge and experience professional to the table.
And I know we have a couple parents on this call who are parents of current fifth graders, but also parents of middle schoolers at our school. Feel free if any of you want to chime in at any point from a parent perspective to just tell us, you know, what you've experienced or your kids have experienced in these courses too. Any questions about curriculum or like the standard versus honors options that we have for middle school?
Hey, this is Jesse's mom. I have a question about like the science fair and the National History Day.
Mm-hmm.
When they're working on those, is there like a Hamden version first, or are they just showing up to Morgan State? Like, how does this work?
No, so that's a great question. No, so there's lots of Hamden steps along the way, and we have our own science fair and our own history day, and then those top students from our school go on to represent us at like the Baltimore City round for history day, and then could go on to like the state round also. So no, for both of those we do like the Hamden version of it, and then those top students go on to the actual Morgan State Science Fair and the district history day competition.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
And really the idea behind those is to help students foster the independence of working on something long-term, right? And being able to kind of organize all of that and come out with a product. So it's great when kids go to the next level, but really for us, it's more about the process than the product.
At what point would it be determined whether they would be attending sixth grade standard versus honors?
That's a great question. So officially, we make those decisions in May for reorganization, but I am more than happy, the fifth grade teachers are more than happy to kind of have those conversations much earlier. I know for a lot of students that might be a big part of whether you choose to do middle school at Hamden, and we can have those conversations, whenever you feel like you're ready to have them. The fifth grade teachers are happy to have them, and I'm happy to have them also to kind of talk through a little bit more student specific, what we think they're, which classes they might qualify for honors.
Thank you.
And I'll go over that at the end with like all my contact information so that if you want to set up a meeting like that, we can. Okay, so I'm going to keep going and we'll have plenty of opportunities for questions if you think of them. I just wanted to include some of our extracurricular opportunities that are available mostly for middle schoolers. Some of these are also available for elementary, but continue into middle school. Student Government Association is probably the biggest one that starts for middle school students for grades 6 through 8. So they have opportunities to be class representatives to the SGA, and also in 7th and 8th grade to actually be officers in SGA. And those SGA officers get to, meet with our leadership, with Dr. Foster, with Ms. Maxwell, to kind of help give student input into decisions that are made at our school. They plan activities and they really are the leaders in our school. And then the other ones, debate team, green team, safety patrol. A lot of these are probably familiar, but I just wanted to make sure that you were able to see that there are additional opportunities for leadership when they get into middle school. And a lot of those clubs that they love in later elementary, they can also continue into middle school. Questions about any of those? So the composite score process, which can be very overwhelming. So I like to go over it with fifth grade parents just so that they understand how the process will work when you're going for that middle school to high school choice. So the composite score is based on all 4 quarters of 7th grade and the first quarter of 8th grade. And when I say composite score, I'm talking about that score that will determine what high schools you are eligible to attend. They changed the composition of the scores slightly each year, but this year is 80% based on report card grades and 20% based on their MCAP scores. And what I like to make sure I clarify is that all honors classes receive an extra 10% bump in the weight for their composite scores. So they're getting additional points in their composite score for those honors classes. And one of the questions that we get a lot is, how do our honors classes compare to like Ingenuity or advanced academics? As far as their composite scores, they're exactly identical. So our scores weigh the exact same way as a student who goes to advanced academics or to Ingenuity. A couple years ago, Dr. Foster and I really started looking at our programming to figure out how could we offer at Hampden what these other programs were offering at other schools. And so we really modeled our honors courses after the advanced academics courses that are available. So our honors classes are weighted exactly the same way. So going to like an Ingenuity program is not going to give your child a stronger composite score than it would if they just attended honors classes here at Hampden. And that was quite a mouthful. So if you have questions about that, please ask.
So if we are evaluating the the honors class versus the Ingenuity project, what advantages would there be for something like the Ingenuity project over the honors class?
What advantages would there be for the Ingenuity, going to like an Ingenuity program over Hampden? Yeah. None. Can I say that? No.
Sure. I mean, if it's true.
Well, so I will say, so advanced academics, there are advanced academic sites around the city, and for our honors classes completely match everything that's happening for advanced academics. For Ingenuity programs, they do use a different curriculum, so it's hard for us to be able to compare because we're just using different curricula. But from families that have left us and gone to Ingenuity, they've really shared that it's very much the same experience. It doesn't seem like it's preparing them better for high school from the feedback that we've gotten. And the composite scores are weighted the same way, so it's not getting them into a better high school. Some of the feedback that we have gotten from their programming and from parents who have gone is that it tends to be a more competitive environment in Ingenuity programs because you're taking like students from all over the city who are academically competitive for these programs. So there does tend to be a lot more competition. If that's something that your child would thrive on, then maybe that would be something great. But in a lot of cases, I think students do better in more of like a community setting where there's not that academic pressure.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah. And again, I'm happy to set up a meeting with anybody individually to say like, hey, Mrs. Kroger, you know my kid pretty well. Can we kind of talk through this process? I'm more than happy to, give you some insight based on what I know about your child individually. Dr. Foster, anything else you think about advanced academics or Ingenuity that I'm forgetting?
Yeah, so in Kroger, I was trying to think, am I going out of turn in speaking to this? So I'm going to kind of take your question, Mr. Esley, and change it. What I think we have an advantage of in comparison to Ingenuity is that we know your kid. And our school has such an invested relationship in the kid in our school. Depending on, there's different Ingenuity and advanced academic sites, but the relationship that we have as staff with kids have with one another, I think that just really gives them such a extra level of support, social emotional support, that frankly, that matters so much, y'all. In middle school, get ready. Puberty is real, and that's why I think our school experience really supports students, not just academically, but social emotionally as they are transitioning from being children to adolescents to pretending that they are adults and stuff.
And that kind of led us into this next one. We've gotten some feedback from, parents who are here currently, or maybe some parents who left and came back to us. And a lot of these things that Dr. Foster was just talking about, but especially that continued support for students with 504s and IEPs, that continuity of knowing the service providers and knowing, who their safe people are, I think is definitely a huge reason to stay at Hampden. And then I also think, there's the lack of competition in a lot of ways offers students more opportunities to interact with students that aren't exactly like them. So if you're in an Ingenuity program, you're interacting with, you know, all kids who are academically advanced. And so I think that, you know, leads to relationships with students who are all a lot like you. And I think Hampden has just a huge difference in diversity that might not be in some of those other programs. And I think also, I think it was Miss St. Clair, I don't know if she's on this call, but she had shared, you know, she was worried that maybe Hampden wouldn't prepare students for high school the same way. And she shared with me earlier this year, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but Grady's in 7th grade this year. And she said, oh no, I see it. Like I see the change in the independence coming now that, you know, he's gone from 6th to 7th grade. And we do really try and scaffold that support and take it away to make sure that they have that level of independence so that by the end of 8th grade, they really are ready for middle school, I mean, for high school, even though we're giving them those extra layers of support. Any other questions? Okay, so this last part, if you want to keep your child at Hampden for next year, you don't need to do anything. They'll automatically roll over into our 6th grade. So there's nothing that you need to do specifically. And then, as I said to the question before, we usually make those official recommendations for honors classes in May, but we certainly want you to have that information so that you can make informed decisions before that. I'm happy at any time. You can send me a message. We can set up a Zoom and just kind of talk through, you know, what we see for your child for middle school. I will also say, one of the reasons why we really like not being an advanced academic site is that advanced academics and Ingenuity tend to really just look at a number, right? Like your kid has a composite score and they make the cutoff for honors or they don't. And at Hampden, that's much more of a conversation of, you know, what are your priorities for your child? What do we know about your child? Where do we think they'll thrive? And we tend to err toward honors if we think that your child could do well in that. And then we kind of come up with a game plan for when do we check in? What does that look like? What if they're not making success or, you know, frustrated or not happy in those honors classes? What does that pathway back to standard look like? So ours is a much more kind of holistic approach as opposed to advanced academics and Ingenuity, which is like, just your child needs to make this cutoff score in order to be included in honors classes. Okay, tell me what other questions you have. You guys are quiet. Tell me what else you're thinking about.
Miss Patterson, I said she had her hand raised. Go ahead, Miss
Oh, hi, Miss Patterson. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
Hi.
I just stopped sharing my screen. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm very late to the party. I just wanted to share with the parents how, you know, I had a middle schooler who went through the honors program and just how impressed I am with the curriculum and how pleased I was. I just wanted to kind of share that experience. He is at Gilman now, and I do feel that although their curriculum is like college rigorous, he was prepared and he's doing well. So thank you. And I just wanted to kind of share how excited I am that Hampden has the honors program.
Thank you so much. And we love Dominic. I'm glad to hear he's doing so well.
Yes.
Hey, Miss Kroger, this is Jesse's mom again.
Hi.
I have no idea how big the middle school is at Hampden. Like, how many classrooms are we talking about? Like, how many students?
Great question. So still 2 classes per grade level for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I would say, what is that, about 150 kids in middle school probably, but between 6 different classes. So as there are 2 classes in every other elementary grade level, there are still 2 classes per grade level. This year they do a full, like they see all 4 teachers. So they have a separate teacher for ELA, math, science, and social studies. And so in 6th grade, they start that rotation of having all of the main content area teachers, but there's still only 2 classes per grade level. Did that explain it well?
Yep, that was perfect.
Okay.
And then are the the other offerings like gym and art classes and music, are those pretty much the same as elementary?
Yes, they are. And elementary has 45-minute resource periods and middle school has hour-long resource periods. So they have a resource class every day and it's an hour of resource time each day. And then we often get asked about recess also. Middle school also has recess all the way through 8th grade here. So the same way that all the elementary grades have recess, so does middle school.
Thank you.
Ms. Kroger, this is Jack Krabby, Max's dad.
Hi.
Just, how are you? Thanks for doing
Good.
this. I just had a question, just I guess overall, philosophically, as they go into middle school, what is the weight in terms of, high school prep? And is that really the focus is to get these kids ready for, the next step, or is it more just we're focusing on the individual student and making sure they can be the best they can be?
Yeah, so I
Or
mean, I
both?
think I think it's both, right? And I think those things kind of go hand in hand. I think that it's not like it's a conversation that we're having with students all the time of like, you got to get into high school, you have to, I don't think that pressure is there. I think academically, we're always thinking about, meeting the grade level skills and making sure that they're prepared, but also helping them become independent thinkers, independent learners. Hopefully the middle school, the parents who are here of current middle schoolers also feel like, their students still have all of their personality and we really meet them where they are personality wise and academically and try and embrace that the best that we can. But we are always also thinking about, are we preparing them academically? Are we making sure that they're hitting all those standards? Are they for the next grade level and then to move into high school? And are we giving them the opportunities to be independent as much as possible, right? So in 6th grade versus 8th grade, that looks a lot different. But I think in addition to the academics, those behaviors and that motivation and being able to kind of take responsibility for themselves is also such a huge part of them being successful for the rest of their lives, that we're always kind of adding in those responsibilities from 6th to 8th to get them prepared for that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, great.
Okay, great. The awkward teacher wait time when you just make sure everybody had plenty of time in case they think of a question.
I guess I have another question.
Yeah.
Given that we're a couple years in with the honors program now, are there any changes? Like, are there any lessons that we've learned that we're implementing for continuous improvement?
That's a great question, and I could probably write my dissertation about it, but so there are lots of things that we've learned, right? And so one of the big changes that we've had to work really hard on, it used to be that students were in all honors classes or all standard classes, right? And so for our programming, that really created this like, are you in honors or are you not, right? Which is not what we wanted for a community school. So the addition of being able to be in some honors classes versus not all honors classes, and that 6th through 8th grade all going through the 4-teacher rotation is intended so that students aren't like, oh, I'm in the honors classes, right? Like every student has an individual schedule and they go to different classes, which feels a lot more like high school, right? And then they have to get used to like, where am I on Tuesday at this time? Where am I on Thursdays at this time? So fosters a little bit of that independence, but also takes away that like, oh, I'm in the honors classes, that feel that kind of came with it. And we were really aware of that early on, that became very much a dynamic in the middle school that we did not want to have. And so over the past few years, we've really worked to give students as many options to be in honors as possible, but also to make sure that students know that being in honors classes is not what makes or breaks your middle school experience, right? There's so many things that are important in middle school. And if honors classes are what challenge you and what are best for you, that's great. And if they're not, that's great too. And that's, we don't want that to become the entire focus. So I would say that has been our number one takeaway, and kind of shift as, in the beginning, we were just so excited to be able to offer all these honors classes. And now we've kind of seen the impact socially of, what we need to do to change that. We've also really looked a lot at equity, at who's in our honors classes, and making sure that, we're equitable about who has access to those classes, and really tracking those scores to make sure, are we supporting all students equitably in being successful in honors classes also. So I would say those have been our biggest changes. Dr. Foster, anything you
I'm
want
gonna
to
add one more. Yeah, I'll add one more. So this one kind of coincides with the return to in-person learning from COVID, and because we've been working in this middle school space for a long time, and what we learned in returning from COVID is that kids were not, they weren't used to being social creatures and social beings, and they needed that opportunity to think and process and to talk and to debate and to disagree, like all the things that make us, hopefully great, kind citizens. So we've made really intentional opportunities for kids to have that space, in both their academic and in the, non-instructional times, like their lunch and recess and everything like that, just to really emphasize those soft skills that will carry this good, kind human beings through life. So that's something that we've been much more intentional about doing as well.
And the other nice thing is our middle school teachers have been, for the most part, teaching middle school for a long time, right, in the same content areas. And so that also gives them the opportunity to see that progression from 6th to 8th grade and kind of make those tweaks, right? So I know Mr. Chacona is always thinking about I know that they didn't cover that, in 6th grade at the end of the year. And so he's adding in and making sure that he's putting that in. And so those teachers having a good relationship, I think also, keep some of those bumps of the road out, that they communicate a lot, they're together a lot, and they've been working together for a long time.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Great question. Anybody else? Okay, well, I just want to reiterate that I am more than happy to set up an individual conference. I've done it with lots of families in the past to just say, hey, what do you see for my child? You know them. What do the 5th grade teachers see for them? And we're happy to do that. I know that's a big part of kind of making those decisions around what you'll do for middle school. And so I'm more than happy to have that. You can send me an email or a dojo message and we can set that up to just talk, more personally about your child.
Ms. Kruger, I have a question that you may have covered early. I was kind of late joining.
Okay.
But I'm unfamiliar with just the mechanics of signing up for middle school.
Okay.
So if Cora is in 5th grade currently at Hampden, and if we want her just to continue on up into 6th grade, is there anything in particular we have to do, or not?
No.
Okay.
There's this whole school choice process, which feels like
Right.
a lot. That's only if you are leaving Hampden to go to a different school.
Okay.
So filling out the choice application for middle school is only if you're planning to go somewhere else. If you don't do anything at all, she would just roll right over into our 6th grade.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. And then advanced academics and ingenuity have their own separate, application process and all of that. But again, to stay here at Hampden, you don't need to do anything. All right. Thanks so much for coming, Dr. Foster. Anything else you want to add while we have everybody?
Well, thank you all. I don't take it lightly that you all have trusted us with your babies, and we appreciate the opportunity just to continue the relationship with them. Just looking at the names and the families on this call, you all are are part of our Hamlin family. We don't want you all to leave, so I hope you all don't. Of course, we respect it if you do, but we hope you stay. And if you have any individual questions or anything clarifying, just give us a call, Dojo, and we'll definitely be able to help.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. And hopefully, you have all my contact information if you need to reach out. And thanks so much for joining us tonight.